Central allocation is based on a student's allocation band, parental choice of schools, and random number. What are the points to note when parents complete the choice of schools form for their child?
Parents will receive the Secondary 1 Choice of Schools form, choice form, and related documents for central allocation through their child's primary school in early April. Regardless of whether parents have applied for their child a discretionary place in a participating secondary school and/or Jockey Club TE College, or S1 places of NDSS secondary schools, they should return the completed choice form to EDB through their child's primary school in early May.
For students notified as successful applicants by participating secondary schools, or for students admitted by NDSS secondary schools, and have accepted the offer with the signed undertakings and the original copy of their primary 6 student record forms surrendered to the schools, or for students admitted by other schools, for example international schools or private schools, and decided not to participate in CA.
Their parents do not need to fill out the choice form. They only have to cross out the parts of school choices and sign on the choice form to indicate the intention of not participating in CA and return the choice form to EDB through the primary schools for processing.
The Secondary 1 Choice of Schools form is divided into Part A and Part B. Part A is for unrestricted school choices. When completing Part A, parents should refer to the Handbook for Unrestricted School Choices, which provides lists of all participating secondary schools in the territory. Parents may also refer to the handbook available at their child's primary school. They may also visit EDB's homepage or use the fax service of EDB's 24-hour automatic telephone inquiry system at 2891-0088 to obtain the lists.
When filling in the school choices in Part A, parents should refer to the column School Code in the Handbook for Unrestricted School Choices and fill in the codes of the schools in order of preference. Parents may choose 1 to 3 secondary schools from any school net.
Part B is for restricted school choices based on students' nets. In line with the administrative districts, the whole territory is divided into 18 school nets. In principle, the school net to which a student belongs is determined by the location of his or her primary school, but not the district where he or she lives. For details of individual schools, parents can contact the schools concerned direct. When completing Part B, parents should refer to the secondary school list of the net their child belongs to.
The secondary school list will be distributed to the parents with the choice form and the notes for parents on central allocation. The secondary school list of each school net will also be uploaded to EDB's homepage on the day of distribution for public access. The secondary school list contains all the secondary schools in the district and secondary schools in other districts providing school places for the net.
Parents should note that the number of secondary schools and school places provided from other districts may vary from year to year, according to the demand and supply situation. For example, the number of places provided by individual schools may increase or decrease across years, or individual schools or schools of a certain district may not provide places to a school net which they have served previously.
When filling in the school choices in Part B, parents should refer to the school code in the secondary school list and place the schools in order of preference in the choice form. Parents should fill in as many as 30 choices selected from the school net. Can parents repeat the same school choice?
Parents may choose schools from any school net and place them in Part A. They may also repeat the same school choice in both Part A and Part B if it is in their child's school net. However, parents should not make repeated choices within the same part, because the choices of the same school code within the same part will be regarded as one choice and processed by the computer once only. Hence, the repeated choice will not increase the chance of being allocated to the school. Can students apply for cross-net allocation?
If application for cross-net allocation is necessary, parents may apply to EDB through the primary school before early March. A successful applicant will participate in Part B of central allocation in the new school net for which he or she is approved. If the cross-net application is not approved, the student will participate in Part B of central allocation based on his or her original school net.
Parents may contact the primary school of their child for inquiries concerning the application. Parents should note that once the application for cross-net allocation is approved, it is irrevocable. What is the basis for determining the allocation band of a student?
Students' standardized internal assessment results at the end of Primary 5 and both in mid-year and at the end of Primary 6 will be used for the calculation of allocation bands and other education-related purposes. As different schools may have different curricula and the standard of assessment may vary among schools, a scaling mechanism has to be used to scale the internal assessment results of all participating schools so that their scaled marks can be compared.
The Pre-Secondary 1 Hong Kong Attainment Test, or in short Pre-S1 HKAT, is used as the scaling tool for the SSPA system. In the 2018 to 2020 cycle, the average of the sampled results of the Pre-S1 HKAT 2016 to 2018 will be used by EDB. To scale the internal assessment results in primary schools of students proceeding to S1, when processing the unrestricted school choices in Part A, the computer will put the scaled marks of all students in the territory into an order of merit. Students will be equally divided into 3 territory bands, each consisting of 1/3 of the total number of participating students in the territory.
When processing the restricted school choices in Part B, the computer will put the scaled marks of all students within the same net into an order of merit. Students will be equally divided into 3 net bands, each consisting of 1/3 of the total number of participating students in the school net.
The purpose of banding is just to decide the order of allocation of students, and is not to draw up an absolute standard for assessing students' performance. For the division of allocation bands, please refer to the illustrations in Part 2 of this DVD. What is the computerized procedure for central allocation?
The computer will assign each student a random number. The random number is used to determine the order of allocation of students for a school place within the same allocation band. If the demand for school places of a certain secondary school exceeds the supply, students possessing a smaller random number within the same allocation band will be allocated a place first. The random number has no connection with the student reference number or the student's personal data. The random numbers and allocation bands of individual students will not be retained after the allocation procedure is completed. In the process of school places allocation, the computer will process the unrestricted school choices of all students in Part A first, to be followed by the restricted school choices in Part B. When processing the school choices in Part A, the computer will first allocate school places to students in Territory Band 1. After processing the choices of all the students in Territory Band 1, the computer will then process the school choices of students in Territory Band 2. And finally, those of Territory Band 3 by following the same procedure. If students have been successfully allocated a place in Part A, they will not be allocated school places in Part B. For students who have not been allocated school places in Part A, they will be allocated school places in Part B.
Allocation of school places in Part B is done by SchoolNet. The computer will first allocate school places to students in Net Band 1. For students who are not allocated school places after all their school choices have been exhausted, the computer will allocate them places from the remaining places in the net.
After all the students in NetBand 1 have been allocated school places, the computer will follow the same procedure to process the choices of students in NetBand 2. And finally, those of NetBand 3 students. For the computerized procedure in central allocation, parents may refer to the illustrations in Part 2 of this DVD.
What are the S1 admission arrangements for students studying in feeder and nominated primary schools at the central allocation stage?
In general, after deduction of the repeater and discretionary places, a feeder secondary school has to reserve 85% of the remaining places for its feeder primary schools, and a nominated secondary school 25% of the remaining places for its nominated primary schools.
If your child is studying in a feeder or nominated primary school and is in NetBand 1 or 2 and makes the feeder or nominated secondary school as the first choice in Part B, the restricted school choices, he or she is eligible for allocation to the reserved places.
If the number of eligible students exceeds the number of reserved places, the computer will, by the same token, allocate places according to students' net bands and random numbers.
Parents should note that if a student studying in a feeder or nominated primary school is approved for cross-net allocation, he or she will not be eligible for a reserved place of the feeder or nominated secondary schools. What are the S1 admission arrangements for Primary 6 students studying in through-trained schools?
A Primary 6 student of a through-trained school may choose to proceed to its linked secondary school directly. If the student applies for discretionary places of participating secondary schools, or S1 places of NDSS secondary schools, no matter successful or not, or participates in central allocation, he or she will not be allowed to retain the right to proceed directly to the linked secondary school. Dear parents, please continue to watch the illustrations in Part 2 of the DVD.